Do you want me to? Okay.
Hi, everyone. We are live on High Five. This is a very special episode that we are having on High Five Literacy. Before we go on, I want to give people a chance to come on. So I want to just talk about some of the things that are going on this month for Dyslexia Awareness Month. Today, we are going to be focusing on a parent and a teenage girl who are making strides with the word Wasp and Hornet. So that's for today. But we're also dedicating some episodes throughout the month to test anxiety, trauma. And I'm actually going to be talking to some of my friends, adult friends, who have lived with this for years and the lasting impact of testing trauma. So we're trying to turn this around. That's the whole point about going live and doing these types of things. If you haven't listened to the podcast, The Literacy View, Real Teachers Letting Loose with my co-host, the fabulous Judy Boxner, please make sure you subscribe, like and subscribe, and you will learn a lot because we are about no BS. We tell it like it is, and we call BS if we hear it. So I hope that you will be listening. We have great episodes, and that's how my guest found out about a lot of information from the Literacy View. So this is exciting. I am going to be talking about the Hornet Literacy Primer today, not primer. A primer is a book that we use in education to make sure we have all the basic skills. And we are going to be talking about the word WASP. Both of these books, we're going to be talking about how parents, teachers, tutors, anyone could be using these books to help children and teenagers and adults. What's nice about these books is that they're not babyish and they are age appropriate for kids who need that type of help in decoding and spelling. If you are American, make sure you are getting the American version. There is an American flag right here. And that's important because the spelling does change as we go on, as words get harder. So you want to make sure you have the American version. There have been some problems on Amazon.com with the American version. I've been hearing about it. So let's just make sure that you, if you're ordering, that you're going to order the right one. So without any more introduction about those types of things, I want to introduce you to Sherry Vale and her daughter, Kira. Sherry actually is a fellow New Yorker. Yay! And I did not know Sherry before today. I have never seen her. I don't know her. And I found out she lives on Long Island. So we are a car ride away from each other. Her beautiful daughter, Kira, is 15 years old and wanted to come on and talk to everyone about what she is doing with her mom. What's interesting about this family is Kira is one of 7 children. And Sherry will tell you about her family and what she is doing to help her daughter. So Sherry, nice to have you. I think I gave people enough time to start joining us. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what brought you to this point and some of the strides that you're making with Kira?
Okay, so let's see. My daughter Kira is 15, and she has been in lots of different programs at schools. So she has an IEP for learning disability dyslexia and dysgraphia. Sorry, and And we've had many accommodations along the way. And then the end of last year, am I correct? Middle of last year, she came up to me and she said, Mommy, I want to read. And I was under the impression my daughter was reading because she's getting 90s and 100s and she is blowing everybody out of the water with accommodations. So this whole time I assumed she could read, and what she would like to do is she would like to become a nurse. So I said, what do you mean you can't read? And she said, well, I can read, but not really. So I said, okay, back to the drawing board. So back to school, ask for more testing. And they come up with, yeah, she doesn't know her vowel and consonant sounds. And she doesn't know that, of course, they put down sight words. And she doesn't know, what was the other thing? The blends, the SH, and that kind of stuff. So my question to the school was, okay, what are you going to do? So they plop her into a reading academy at the end of school. And it wasn't geared toward her weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. So what were they doing? Maybe Kira could tell us that. Kira, so tell us what you were getting at school.
Loud.
We were doing like blah, like stuff like that, kind of, and just what else?
Well, so you told me before we went live that you were in these groups and, you were just sitting and reading from books.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you said. You were sitting and reading from books, but were you really getting something out of this?
No.
Why not? Why not? What did you need? Did you need to learn how to read the words on the page?
I guess
Basically,
like they don't really do
Louder.
more realistic, like Word Wasp and like that have like actual words. The other ones they break it apart, make it all like complicated. You need to know everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they were working on basically comprehension, like understanding what the book was, but not really sounding out words. And that's what you needed, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And I know it's really hard to explain what exactly it is that is holding you back, but you're doing great. You are doing great, okay? So you told your mom, I need help, which is so brave of you. And I want to just put that out there. For a teenage girl to come on and to share what you're sharing with us is really brave. I'm really impressed. So you told your mom you needed this. And so now, Sherry, what's the next step? What happened?
I looked at what they were doing with her and asked her lots of questions. And every time I went up to the school to ask them what they were doing and following what the IEP was showing her deficits and all the testing, why were they not focusing on what was being done? I mean, what needed to be done? And every time I went to go, I was blocked. Somebody showed up. Said, "Oh, don't worry about it, Mrs. Vale." I'm like, you don't understand. She wants to be a nurse. Yeah, like that's our job. That's our job. Like that is the law.
Yes.
Reading, writing, and arithmetic.
They first told us that there's no.
Say it loud.
They told us at first that high school doesn't offer reading programs because they should have already been expected to read.
So they're basically saying that the district didn't do what they needed to do for you, right? That's not your fault, right? I mean, that should not be your fault. You're not supposed to teach yourself to read. And it really shouldn't be your mom's responsibility either. But what we're seeing is if parents don't know and they just trust that it's being done, that sometimes kids just like you, Kira, fall through the cracks. And as I told you before, you are not the only one out there. There are lots of teenagers from high-performing school districts that have difficulties. And the difficulty really goes back to basics, being able to read the words and spell the words. Because if you can't do that, it's really hard to get meaning unless you're able to sound out words. Now, Sherry, tell us a little bit about your family structure, because we have people listening who might be interested in helping their children, but they're like, I can't do this. There's no way. I'm not a certified teacher. I am not trained in this. How would I be able to help my own child? So tell us a little bit about this.
Okay, so I am a mom of 7. They range from the age of 7 all the way up to 18. My oldest one, yes, just graduated last year.
I think we need to carve your head in Mount Rushmore. Okay? You should be right there along with the presidents. Honestly, amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think they're amazing. I mean, that's why I can have 7, because I think that they're amazing. I think they're beautiful little beings, and she knows it's so how I believe. And out of these 7, 5 of them have IEPs. Yeah. So we have 2 dyslexic, dysgraphic, and one probably also has ADHD in there, the oldest one. And then I have 2 definitely ADHD, and then that education, all that reading, math, and all goes into that too, and then 1 medical. So
you have your hands full from 7 to 18 years old with, many of them with IEPs. And so now, how do you make time? How do you structure this type of help in your day with 7 kids? I'm really curious to know myself.
We actually do it at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually go into my bedroom and we lock the door, because otherwise everybody wants everybody wants to be with mom doing this. And I'm not teasing you. They all do, because it's that private time for them. And it's that time where, Kira and I work, and then we kind of lay on the bed and talk.
Yes.
Yes.
So you're making it warm and actually a time where the 2 of you can bond. That's what it appears to me. Yeah.
And it's because you had mentioned it before. It is not babyish.
No.
At all. It is just literally letters and words, and if you go through like the structure of it, the directions, and then do it. Directions, do it, and it's almost separated in like chapters almost. So you don't have to badger your child, or for the next 30 minutes. It's literally, and it's not even badgering. And then the marking system is easy, and you can change it up however you want. You don't have to do as long as it works for both of you. And then to see the progress.
Yes. So I'm going to stop you because you said a lot right there. So anyone watching, the beauty of the Hornet and the word Wasp really is in the structure. And there are these coaching pages, and parents are able to read, or tutors or teachers, anyone could use this. That there are pages that match up with the new skill. So if it's read beforehand, you know exactly what's coming. And then there's this grid where you're checking off whether the student got it right or didn't get it correct. And there's record keeping. So when you look back, okay, this is something we need to go back over. And that's also built right into the program, that they want to build in this practice. And this is great for kids with all types of learning issues, because it builds repetition, it builds that practice opportunity right there, and it gives you a tool to talk to teachers, because you could point out and say, this is something that she needs. So I'm going to jump to Kira right now. So Kira, how do you feel when you don't get something right. When you see that, that slash mark go, or a dot go on the page, a dot meaning that something is not right. How do you feel? And, how do you handle that in your mind?
Well, I don't really get stuff wrong anymore, but
That's the key.
when
Anymore.
when I was starting the book, it was difficult, but I don't know. I just kind of I'm mostly like a carefree person, so I'm like,
Okay, so that's your personality. That
Yeah.
you didn't internalize that. But there are a lot of kids, I think that would.
Yeah.
They would see that X and they start seeing, well, not X's, but dots, and they start seeing that, and it might make them frustrated. But one thing that we try to do is celebrate when something is marked incorrect, because then we know how to fix it. If we don't know when something is wrong, there's no way to fix it, right? And maybe you kind of just figured that out without much from your mom, that, okay, I think you trust your mom quite a bit. Yeah. To that it's okay if you make mistakes in front of mom, right? That she's still going to love you. It's unconditional love, right? Yeah. So, Sherry, tell us about some of the things that happened along the way. What did you notice about Kira's confidence, and just about your relationship with her?
I forgot to mention one very important thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dyslexic.
And we did not even talk about this before. So is this helping you as well?
Yes. And then at night, I reach over and I grab the book and I go, honey, check this out. And then I'm like, look what she can read. And then I'm reading. And also it's not only reading, it's spelling, which I found, and then the writing. So
Yes.
it's all falling into place.
That's the science. That
all
is
falling
the science, right?
So it's not just reading. It's
Yeah.
writing, it's spelling, and then handwriting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then looking back at her book, and it's just, so I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that very important piece.
That is a very important piece, because Sherry, as you know, I do have private students, and I always work with families. I never just work with the student. I'm very big on parent involvement and letting parents know exactly what I do and where I am in whatever I do. And it's not unusual for parents to also have their struggles. Look, if this daughter is your biological daughter, you have some you adopted, right? But biological children, especially, there is a genetic component to some of this. So I didn't even ask you about that. But often I am dealing with parents and I'm kind of instructing both of them. It's not unusual for me to help both parent and child. And then those parents are able to advocate for their other children, and teachers are able to start paying it forward too. Because I've had a lot of teachers and administrators use my services because they were trained in balanced literacy, right? That whole book reading approach, Kira, that you were talking about, that doesn't work for a lot of kids, right? So, let's start talking a little bit about, so you do this in the evening. You have a certain time where the two of you lock the door, and even though you have these 6 other kids, they know at this point, this is mommy and Kira time. So I want to talk about fair and equal, those 2 terms. Some people confuse the two, okay? You are giving Kira what she needs. So if you have other children, you have 6 other children, they're not all going to get the Hornet and Word Wasp, correct? If they don't need it. if they don't need it, right? You're not going to do this 7 times just
Oh.
to make it equal. You know where I'm going with this.
Right. Well, yeah, yes. But I did and do every once in a while go to that book to make sure that they're brushed up on their sounds, the sounds, of that letter, so that I know where they are. Like, reading
Yes.
with my little one today, and she's guessing words. Got to go back.
Yes. Yes.
So-
So I guess let me be clear. It helps you to become better at picking out difficulties and to be on top of it with other children. But let's say you have kids that maybe they don't have any issues reading words. They're fine. You're not going to do an intervention to be equal.
No.
Okay, and it's a rhetorical question. So what I'm trying to let people know who are listening and watching, fair and equal are 2 different things, okay? So what's fair is that your teenage daughter gets to be able to have a chance to become a nurse. She might decide she doesn't want to be a nurse, but what's fair is that you're giving her the opportunity to succeed so that she can have a choice, right? That is fair. Equal, not every kid is going to need the same things. So parents should not feel guilty if they're spending more time with one child than another child. You have 7 of them, so I think you could speak to this.
Oh, yeah. And I tell everybody, all my children get the exact same amount of love, but they all need it in a different way.
Correct. Now, you also told me that you have some biological and some adopted children. And I just said, you're just amazing to take that on. Just amazing. Do you see any of these issues in the children you adopted?
Absolutely.
So is that telling you that maybe it's a teaching approach? If you think, okay, you see where I'm going, right?
Yeah.
My husband's the lawyer, but I'm kind of leading you here, right? It must be, right, more than just genetics. It must be environmental too. Kira, you want to have something to say. Go ahead, girl. Jump in.
I don't think it's just a teacher problem. I think it's an administration and state.
Okay. So, wow, are you brave? Okay. So you think it is not just teaching, and I agree with you because teachers are not the fault here. When I say a teaching problem, I don't mean that teachers are the problem. They're doing what they were trained to do and how to do it. You mentioned district administrators. Why do you think that that could be a problem, Kira? You think they know? Do you think they know that there's a teaching instructional problem here? Is that what you're trying to get across?
Yeah.
I'm going to prompt her because I know exactly where she's going. Are you in a reading class right now? How come the teacher can't teach you?
She doesn't know. She
Say it loud. What?
She doesn't know. She's just a reading teacher. She's not specialized in anything. She doesn't know how to teach anybody with dyslexia, like anything. And
okay, so I was one of those teachers. So I want you to know that I was a reading specialist who could not teach a child like you. So in defense of teachers, because I don't want it to feel like, we're picking on anybody. I was a DIS teacher, right? So there's dyslexia, and I was a DIS teacher. I didn't know. I had to find all of this out myself over years, okay? So I've been doing this for quite a long time now. And my journey started in the late 1990s, Kira. So we're having this conversation in 2023. You weren't even born then. Okay. So this is kind of sad when you think about it. But I think what you're trying to say is, what I think, and tell me, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think what you're trying to get across is there is a problem systemically here between what teachers learn at the university and what the districts are getting as far as their instructional materials and programs that do not meet your needs. They just don't know.
And
Is that correct? I don't know.
that's what we were talking about. What she's getting at is what I always say. The reading teacher was set up to fail.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
set up to fail. And I know that. And that's why every time I try to call a meeting, it's always, sidestepped, or somebody else has got to be there and tell me, don't worry, she'll collect things. You can't collect things if you don't have the right data and whatever. But that's what she's basically trying to say, is that I keep saying that her poor reading teacher is set up to fail.
Right. So now you and I just spoke for a few minutes. I want to make that clear to anyone who just jumped in now, that Sherry and I just met, and I just met her beautiful daughter, Kira, minutes ago. And you told me that the accommodations that she gets at school kind of masked some of these problems because her grades are so fantastic. She's a good student. Obviously, she tries really hard. She's able to kind of get by, and she must be really bright in order to do that, right? She's a bright girl. You can be really bright and still have a problem reading the words. I want to make that very clear. So, Sherry, talk about how you were fooled by accommodations. Go ahead.
So, started many years ago with my oldest son, and he couldn't read and write. And here we are fighting from pre-K all the way up to fourth grade. And I get an advocate, and the advocate fights for me, and I get accommodations for him. And I go, great, this is going to solve our problem. So I get accommodations for him. Then I get accommodations for my next child, which was Kira, that needed some help. And then all the children all along. And my kids are doing great, and everything looks great, and everything looks great on paper. And they say, Mrs. Bales, she's passing. Look, she's highest in her class. And I go, yes, she is. Thank you. Oh, this is great. Until she came home and said, Mom, I want to learn how to read. And this whole time, I'm thinking, well, how is she getting by? And she said, Mom, I can kind of read, but I really can't read.
Yeah, kind of, meaning using the other words to guess the words you can't read. I guess that's what
And
it
a
is.
pen, and taking pictures and reading to you. All these accommodations are wonderful and lovely, until the bottom line is, what do you want to do? And you want to be a nurse. How are you supposed to read the script from the doctor?
So I want to talk about accommodations because, I know lots of parents spend a lot of time. This is Dyslexia Awareness Month. And believe me, Sherry, I get a lot of people going against things that I say because I'm very honest. I say it like it is. But there are lots of people, as you know, there are lots of people out there who will, fight for the school, with the school, to get certain services, to get certain accommodations, and they hire advocates and attorneys. And there's a need for some of that. Don't get me wrong. There is a need, and the school district should be responsible. Shouldn't be you. They should be responsible. And I'm not saying it's not worth the effort, but I want parents not to be fooled that if you are fighting for your one child, every year you are going to have to keep fighting, because from one teacher to the other, from one year to the other, things change. The IEP is not followed. There's always a fight. And the money that is spent on this is just astronomical. And we have people listening right now. I hope there are people listening that are in a situation where they don't have the funds to hire somebody like me to help their children, or they can't hire an attorney and they can't hire an advocate. And then you have these books that one is like $30 or less, I'm not even sure, American dollars, and one is $50 approximately or less American dollars, that everything is right there. You don't need specialized training. You don't need anything more than paper and pencil and the manual. That's it. And, you know, it's nice to have a certified teacher to help, but you have 7 children. I don't think that you could be spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on this. And so you made up your mind to roll up your sleeves and you're just going to jump in and do this. And it's scary. And I want to let parents know out there, it is scary. If you are a teacher out there and you are not certified in structured literacy, it's scary. But these types of manuals, the Hornet and the Word Wasp, make it so that you can do it. Don't be afraid of messing it up. And I want to plug my Facebook group. So I have a Facebook group called Word Wasp USA Support, where people can ask any question about one of those programs. We don't talk about anything else. You know, I'm not there to just answer a million questions that come up. You know, I don't have the time for that. But if you have specific questions about wanting to use these books, I would be happy to answer those specific questions for you to get you over the hump. And then we have people doing it like Sherry, who are in the group, who might offer some advice. And then the actual authors of these programs are available too. Nicola Cook is there, who is the daughter of one of the authors, and she's present all the time. So there is support available for you. And we're, you know, thinking about other ways to support you as well, so that anybody who wants to tutor a kid, because we have so many teenagers just like Kira. Kira's 15 years old. So anybody who came in late, this beautiful young woman is 15 years old wanting to become a nurse. And I'm just summing up. She told her mother only months ago that she wanted to learn to read. Her mother, Sherry, thought she was reading because she had all these accommodations. And it just wasn't happening with all this help because it masked the real issue. She needed to learn how to read the words and spell the words. So, Kira, how did you feel in school when everybody else seemed, and I guarantee they don't know how, by the way, I want to tell you that. There are a lot of kids just like you, but how did you feel when these other kids seemed to read effortlessly? Did you hide this for a while? Like, how did you deal with it?
Well, in elementary school, I got made fun of a lot.
Okay. And you know what, Kira, you're not the only one. Honey, you are not the only one. You are so brave. Do you know how many people are watching? I hope people have their teenagers with them, because you are not the only one. And they get made fun of for other reasons too. But definitely, reading is an issue. Did you have to read out loud? Is that how people knew?
No, it was with a small group, but it was only with boys.
Okay. That's tough. Yeah. So you're in this group, small group. You're the only girl, which of course is isolating, especially in elementary school. Like, you're in that girly mode at that point when you want your friends, and you're in this group, and the boys were making fun of you.
Yeah, and Sometimes.
You know why they were making fun of you? Because you're absolutely gorgeous. And obviously that was their way of probably trying to connect with you. Also, they probably felt bad about themselves. You know, anybody who makes fun of other people have their own issues. I hope you know that there's self-hatred there if they're making fun of you. So I don't want to take this into that piece, but yeah, that is rough. So did you try to hide this when you were in class or going places? What did you do?
If we were doing classwork, I'd kind of just sit there running my finger across the paper and just pretending. Even in middle school and last year. And
Yeah, pretending. Every student I have worked with do some degree of pretending. Trust me. So there's this thing called drop everything and read. Did you have that in your school? Drop everything and read, where everybody has to read silently.
20 minutes.
Like you just take a book
Yeah.
and you just have to read alone. So you know what they're doing, Kira? They're holding the books and they're blocking their faces, and who knows what they're doing. I have a piece in my own book. So I wrote a book, you know, called Failing Students or Failing Schools, a parent's guide to reading instruction and intervention, which was originally reading intervention behind school walls, why your child continues to struggle. And this is my experience, Kira. And what I wrote is these kids pretend read. Exactly what you said. They pretend read, they hold the books up. They could be holding the books upside down and, you know, it goes unnoticed, the book on the head. You know, it's kind of crazy what goes unnoticed. So yeah, you try to hide it. You know, it's humiliating. And, you know, so what brought you to tell your mom then at this age that you couldn't read? Like, what made you at this point a trigger for you to tell your mom that you really needed help?
Well, my best friend also has dyslexia.
That helped. That helped.
So we were kind of just talking one day, and she was like, "Yeah, I used to do these reading programs, and in high school they told us that they don't offer them anymore." And then we told our parents, and then they fought together.
Ah, I see that. Power in numbers. And that's something also I tell parents. If you're just going to fight for your child, you're going to be fighting forever. You have to start looking at what's happening in general education, not just with special needs, but what is everyone getting? Because we know that it's not just biological, that these kids are being taught to read like poor readers do. Unfortunately, the strategies that are used, like searching around, doesn't work. So now your mom knows. And so, Sherry, how did you decide to get the Hornet and Word Wasp?
I went again, felt like I was back at square one, felt like I, you know, drowning again, because here I am again. You know, before I thought that accommodations were what was going to save my child, and accommodations are strictly accommodations. They do not, if they're not teaching them to read. They are helping them accommodate to that deficit. So therefore, she couldn't read. And here I thought that there was intervention. So
And
I
also the goals, they don't really do the goals. Oh yeah, we're doing them. They have resource room. They have instructional support. We weren't actually doing them. We were doing homework.
So, yeah, so basically it becomes a way to get you through the work. That's pretty much what it becomes. Like, okay, we want to make sure, because at this point, at your age, then it becomes triage. You know what I mean by that? It's like, okay, we got to you're going to be a nurse, so you should know what triage is. It's like, okay, it's an emergency. We have to stop the bleeding. Okay, we have to find a way to stop the bleeding, but that doesn't get to the heart of why you're struggling, why a smart girl like you who wants to become a nurse should have these problems. There needs to be a way to help, right? So you started to look, and you have these 7 children. I want to make that clear. Anybody who's jumping in, 7 kids. And I'm sure you heard about Orton Gillingham and all of these things. And
Absolutely.
a lot of money, and it takes years, right?
Right. So I'm looking at, so I start looking, and there's tons of different things on the computer, and they all, of course, could take the base of Orton Gillingham. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, been there, done that with the older one. Still can't read and write. Because after you're done, if the person who's teaching you just turns the page, like in Wilson, if you didn't master it, then you're just finished without mastery, right? So I went again on my search and came across a couple of different programs, and they just, you know what? They just weren't fast enough. I need it right now. I need it now.
And babyish too.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. And you know, dancing letters and yeah. And like I said to her, I'm like, babe, do you really want like to go on the computer and see this tiny little rocket go up? And she's like, no. And I'm like,
I did this program from 4th all the way to 8th iReady, and since my reading level was at 1st graders, I was doing rocket ships and
yes, it did not match what your chronological age is, being a teenager. So you're being put on this iReady babyish type of phonics program, and it's insulting. It's humiliating, insulting and humiliating.
And
so, yeah, go ahead, Kira.
Wilson also with the alphabet is also humiliating.
Like A apple A.
No, like you're on level F and your friend's on level W. Like,
okay, so that's not Wilson. So that's the guided reading, the levels. Wilson is a structured program. I'm actually certified in Wilson, and Wilson can work, but just like you said, Sherry, I've seen kids go on for a couple of years, 2 years, 3 years, and they make very slow progress. Yes, but
what
know,
Kira's talking about is the teacher has to then justify where she is through Wilson. So it's mixing. So she's mixing it. So there's never fidelity if you did understand.
Okay. Yeah. Not for Wilson either. Okay.
Correct.
So that's another problem that it's, they feel like they need to do these other pieces when Kira needed to stay true to the structure. So basically, Sherry, you knew that the only person you could really trust is yourself.
Yep. That's it. So they test her and they tell me, oh, in a whisper, she's on a 2nd grade reading level. And then my answer is, so what are you going to do about it? So you put her in a reading program and you let the reading teacher sink. They set her up to fail because she had no idea what to do either. Still doesn't. So I go on my search. And I go on my search and I need something now, not something tomorrow, not babyish with things dancing.
Yeah.
And then I think to myself, okay, because I'm very, what did we do when we had a 1-room schoolhouse? We did reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? So I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. So I went and I searched. And I found a couple of things that finally led me. And I knew I didn't just want reading. I can't just have reading.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you with that because that's important. These books, and again, anybody coming in late, the Word Wasp and the Hornet, both address decoding and encoding. Encoding is spelling. And that is a very important piece to making this stick. That's the whole thing. The writing and saying the sounds in writing and doing this type of work makes this stick. So you knew, because obviously you're a very smart woman too, that reading and spelling are both important. Yes.
I watched I listened to the Literacy View.
What did you say? I didn't hear you. Sherry, say it again. What are you
I
listening to?
listened to the literacy view.
Real
and I
Teachers
binged-
Letting Loose. And if you have not signed up yet, you better subscribe because that's where you'll get the real scoop, no BS. Go ahead.
I binged on that. And that's truly where I learned what I needed for my daughter. I'm being honest. So I went for that search. And then I came across Word Wasp and Hornet. Word Wasp is more popular, I would like to say, than the Hornet. And the Hornet is a little bit easier, and then the Word Wasp. So first it comes Hornet, then Word Wasp. And I knew that if she's on her second grade reading level, then she's missing so much. And I needed to start from the beginning. And I knew that if I started from the beginning, I would be able to see where her deficits are, where she was weak, what she needed to practice. And in this book, you go through it, and then you just stop. And then you go back to what needed to be done until she masters that. Her B's and D's are not always correct, but I don't care because she was able to eventually read 3-letter words. And then it came to now I'm opening up the book every night, and I'm not teasing you, showing my husband and reading the words that she's able to read. And I go, babe, how'd you know that word? Like I wasn't able to read it. And then I go, how could you spell that? She's like, Mom, it's easy. You taught me. And then
I want to just interrupt you. Anyone coming in now, Sherry also has dyslexia. So, so here's a mom with dyslexia teaching her teenage daughter with dyslexia and dysgraphia. So she has 7 kids. So anybody who says that they can't do this, you, as my husband is putting up, rock star status. You have rock star status for sure. So it's just amazing. So we're going to start wrapping this up. So Kira, any advice for teenagers out there or anybody out there, kids in this situation, because it is emotional. And I am so glad, and if I didn't say it before enough, you are so brave and so amazing. Give some other people advice who could learn from you.
I think do it with fidelity and every day. These like we do it sometimes 15 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, like.
But just don't miss a day.
Yeah.
It's like working out. So I'm going to say this, Kira, because I'm with you. Everything is about consistency. Now, I know that the Hornet and Word Wasp people will say, well, you know what? You do it as often as you can throughout the week. I have a different point of view. I think daily practice. I am about consistency, even if it's not a long amount of time, because habits are what you want to build. Nobody, especially at your age, Kira, when you are now in high school and you have a million things going on, nobody wants to sit there and do this. But your mom made it a habit for you, right? It's the consistency. So what you're telling kids out there, pretty much what I'm hearing you say is, you just have to stick with it and be consistent, and you will see the progress. Is that correct?
Yeah, and my school has to retest me. Since June, they tested me in June, and they have to retest me because my reading level has gone up so much.
And that's what I want to end with. So Sherry, tell us now what the school district is saying to you, because this was interesting to me. Go ahead.
Which part are you talking about?
You said that basically they can't believe how much progress she made in such a short time.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Like her reading teacher, the one who, like I said, she's thrown to the lions pretty much. She just keeps testing Kira because they don't understand how she could have improved so dramatically in such a short amount of time and without them. Because Kira has keeping it hidden. So she hasn't told them that I'm really working at home with her. And when she gets something wrong, it's not the end of the world. We celebrate what she has gotten right. It's always I can't even believe then there's nonsense words. I can't even believe she can sound them out, like decode them, sound them out. That's what decoding is. And I'm still halfway on. I'm in the beginning of the word, and she's already doing this.
Yeah, because she has a young brain, right? She can.
Unbelievable. So the school is completely baffled, completely baffled, and I'm going to leave it that way because it's my.
I don't think so, because they're going to find out about this.
well, you know, it's
in hidden anymore.
Talking to parents, and when we leave it to someone else, it doesn't always work. And
No.
sometimes we have to do it ourselves.
That's
because right. And I know we always say, you know, the parent is the biggest child's advocate. And sometimes, you know, you just got to do it yourself. And if I wanted my child to shine the way I know she can shine, and she can't get it from school, and I, you know, like we said, I have 7 children. For me to even, you know, schlep her to somewhere.
It's a New York word, right?
You know, to drag her to go and get, and to sit there, to drive there, to sit there, to then bring her home. It's so much out of the time of the day, and I needed something right now.
Yes.
And this totally fit the bill. I'm going to be honest. I didn't think it was going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, but you were willing to give it a try because it's not a fortune. Yeah.
And so worth it. So worth it.
Yeah.
And like Kira said, as long as you do it consistently, and you have a time, and you make it fun, and it's time to bond. It doesn't have to be yay. It's just like, okay, we're working, and then let's just relax and talk about the day and talk about how you did on this. It all
if
works.
I get something wrong, we laugh. Like if it's something funny, we laugh.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think you're both really amazing. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the idea of doing it yourself, because as somebody who helps kids, I don't let the parents off the hook. And what I mean by that is anything I give, they need to reinforce through the week and know exactly what I'm doing and do the practice. And I make it like that because the only way that this family is going to read and do it correctly is if they know what I'm doing. So whether, and I want to finish with this, whether you need to hire a tutor, because some people just don't feel confident enough to do it, and that's okay. Nobody is making, this is not about shaming anybody. This is about presenting a side here where parents can do this if they choose. If they really don't have the time, you can get somebody to use the book without very little training. And like I said, I have this Facebook group, Word Wasp USA Support. Make sure you get, as I said earlier, the American edition, because if you are American, the spelling of the words will change as you move on in the program. Or you could be a teacher who really doesn't know about structured literacy, and the book will actually inform you about what structure actually looks like. So I welcome teachers, I welcome tutors who would like to do this work. People who might not have degrees can learn to do this. So we are going to be talking more about this in the future, but I think this close to an hour we spent is well worth people's time to watch. I hope anybody who's out there, please share this widely, because to me, the impact of seeing a teenager on here, I did not ask for Kira to come on. She wanted to come on. It was Sherry asking me, her mom, if Kira could join her. And this was so impactful to see the two of you. Really, this was an amazing hour. I just absolutely loved it. And I want to thank you so much for being here. Again, anybody who wants more information, the books are available on wordwasp.com, wordwasp.com. You can get it on Amazon, but beware. Some of those books on Amazon are not the American version. You want to make sure you're getting the American version. You can go right to the website. There's also a little assessment that you could offer to know if you should start with Hornet or Word Wasp if you choose. But you can never go wrong starting with Hornet. As Sherry said, she wanted to make sure the gaps were filled in early enough. So that's where she started. So that's always a safe bet. But Word Wasp does move a little bit faster, but it covers all the same information and more. The Word Wasp has the full scope of the alphabetic code. So we're going to leave it at that. For all of you out there who follow me, I'm going to be spending the month talking about testing trauma. And I'm going to be going live with my friends from my childhood, and people along the way. And you're going to hear some interesting, moving stories. And these are all successful people. I want parents to see that there is a light there, that and there are things that maybe they could do sooner to change that. But I hope you will join me for other live episodes. Again, I'm going to plug the podcast, The Literacy View, Real Teachers Letting Loose, and my books. Okay, please, you could find them at high5literacy.com. And my baby, If Only I Would Have Known, because to me, this book could turn around families. I hope pediatricians, preschool teachers, and librarians start learning about dyslexia, start learning about what reading instruction should look like. So please give this as gifts this month. Give it to doctors, teachers, and librarians, because it can change lives. So I'm going to leave everybody with that. Thank you for joining me. It was a pleasure. Sherry, I hope we stay in touch. Kira, I'm so proud of you, and just keep going. You will be a nurse, honey, if you want to be a nurse.
She will.
I know it. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.